Hey guys, Billy Ephardt here. Hey, thanks for tuning in to the vlog, and I just want to encourage you, if you like what we have to say today, we're going to talk about how do you know if something's a good investment. And I want to remind you that our Tricort Global investments are still open for just a couple more days. I think 1 or 2 days when you actually will see this vlog, they'll be open, and then they close, and then they'll open sometime later in the year. But I want to give you 9 questions you can ask for yourself to know if something is a good investment. You know, a lot of people say, well, how do I know if something's a scam, or, you know, what do I know to look out for? So I'm going to give you 9 questions you can write down and you can work on and ask for yourself when you're looking at an investment. Now today we're not going to teach you specifically how to evaluate them, but we're going to tell you how to avoid investments that you probably shouldn't be in. So the first question that we want to give you is that you ask yourself when you're looking at an investment is, how will my money be returned to me? Number one, how will my money come back to me? An example would be if you're going to lend, let's say, nephew Henry $20,000 to start a taco stand. And I get questions like this from relatives or examples of that quite often in our office here. And so what you got to do is work out with Henry, is he going to actually make enough money in that taco stand to pay this back? And the best way to do it is to say, to actually determine what the payments are going to be that come back and when they're due. So in other words, but how your money is going to be returned to you is you want to know that he has enough revenue coming in from his taco stand to actually pay you back. It works that way even in sophisticated investments, because I see people that make what we call equity investments. In other words, they may do a private equity investment in a company or in a startup, and they have no idea exactly how that money is going to come back to them. So that needs to be really spelled out in a certain way at a certain time, that you understand how money is going to come back and how the investment that you're investing in is actually going to make money. And then secondly, you want to know when and in what time frames will your money be returned back to you. And that's the part where, whether you're doing it in nephew Henry's investment or you're doing it in something else, you want to understand in what time frames, because if your money is not coming back in the time frames that are spelled out, then you know that you've got a problem. So you want to know that when and what time frames will my money come back to me. And then number three is, do you actually have the time to evaluate the investment? In other words, do you have the time to look at it? And some of that has to do as well with your expertise. So do you have the time and the expertise to actually evaluate that investment? And so let me say it to you this way: don't invest in things you don't understand. Many people refer to Warren Buffett and his investing, and one of the things that, if you follow Buffett's history of investments, he buys companies like Dairy Queen. He understands how it works, right? You put this stuff in, you make this special ice cream, or you mix up and you make a Blizzard, and you have a store and you sell it. He understands the front and the back of that business. In other words, he can see it in his mind. He invests in Coca-Cola. What does Coca-Cola do? You know, they make a beverage, right? They sell it. So the point is, sometimes people are coming through sometimes and they're promoting investments that are too sophisticated for people to understand. And let me just encourage you, if there's an investment that's too sophisticated for you to understand, don't invest in it, period. Even if it's me telling you. If you don't understand it, don't do it. And so you have to ask yourself, do you have the time and the expertise to be able to evaluate the investment? And then the other part, once you've evaluated and you decide, yes, I know what I'm doing with it, then you have to ask yourself, number 4, do I have the time to monitor it? In other words, do I have time to watch the investment, to make sure the money's coming back, and to read the reports or whatever else you're getting on the particular investment? Then number 5, and this is a big one, is there too much risk and not enough reward? And I think that's where, when we start teaching on risk reward, anytime, for example, in stock investing, when we talk about what's called the beta of a stock, don't let that bother you too much, but But basically, beta is can you return, or it's basically, for example, what the S&P is actually returning. What's the average return, let's say, of the entire S&P 500 index? And what is that? And then if you can actually, that's the beta. If you can make alpha, alpha is making better than that return. Can you make that? So the answer is, though, there's so much risk that goes into that, right? And so whenever you're looking at a particular investment, sometimes people invest and they're all excited because they made 10%, for example, on investment, but the risk was huge. It's a massive risk that they took to just make that 10%. They could have put it into a low risk investment like the S&P 500 index and still made the same kind of return. And so that's the question. Is there too much risk and not enough reward? So make sure you understand risk, what you're willing to risk. And if you get into things that are really risky, then you should never put more than about 10% of your portfolio in something that is what you would consider to be high risk in your situation. So is it too much risk and not enough reward? And then number 6 is the return for you tax advantage? One of the biggest mistakes, I see people who retire, let's say off a 401k or retire in any kind of retirement account, what they forgot to really take into consideration in a meaningful way is the return tax advantage. In other words, some people who retire actually pay more in taxes after they retire on the money coming out of their 401k or their retirement accounts than they did when they were working. An example would be they don't have, for example, the mortgage interest to take off anymore and other write-offs they had. Plus, they're in the same tax bracket or higher. So they end up paying more, which means they have less to live off of or less to spend than they thought they were going to have. So whenever you're looking at an investment, make sure you take into consideration whether or not it's tax advantage. Number 7, where does it fit in your financial statement, your financial plan, in your balance sheet? And so, for example, the reason I bring number 7 up is because what may be a good investment for me may not be a good investment for you, or what's a good investment for you may not be a good investment for me. So in other words, the idea there is where does that actually fit in your plan? And by the way, you should have a plan. So you should have a financial plan. So you just don't take everything that kind of floats across the screen at you. What you've got to do is say, okay, here's where I am, and here's where this fits in my plan now. So where does it fit in your current financial plan? And then number 8 is what I was talking about a little bit earlier, is do I really understand the investment? And what that simply means is, as I was giving the Warren Buffett illustration earlier, he understands how Dairy Queen makes ice cream and sells ice cream, and so he bought Dairy Queen. Well, it's the same way here, and if you don't understand an investment, period, then don't invest in it, okay? Then number 9, last question, am I going to make money going in? We like to say, when it comes to, for example, investing in real estate, you make money when you buy, not when you sell. And what that means is that you are getting a good deal, a bargain deal going into the investment. One reason why you do that is because if you ever need to go out or get out, you can get out of the investment in reasonable time without losing any money. So you want to make sure that you're making money going in. So these are the 9 questions that we've given you. And number 1 is how will my money be returned to me? Number 2, when and in what time frames will my money be returned to me? Number 3 is, do I have the time and the expertise to evaluate the investment? Number 4, do I have the time to monitor the investment? Number 5, is there too much risk and not enough reward? Number 6, is the return that I'm making from the investment tax advantage? Number 7, where does it fit in your financial plan? Number 8, do I understand the investment? And then number 9 is, am I going to make money going into the investment? So these are the 9 questions that'll help you with knowing how to know for you if something's a good investment. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you right back here on another vlog. Thanks. Bye-bye.